So the election is over, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, it's like a week after the election and it's over, right? It was all declared on Saturday. That's when everybody, all the major media outlets said it's over. We declare for Joe Biden. Except not everybody is really declaring for Joe Biden yet. I keep showing you Epic Times showing this because they still have Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Georgia undecided on their map. They've switched over North Carolina and Alaska to being called on their map, giving us, guess what? President Trump ahead 232 to Joe Biden's 227. That's what they're showing, and they're doing it because of the recounts and because of lawsuits. Now, if you think it's just them that hasn't called it, you're wrong. We also have from Real Clear Politics. Real Clear Politics is showing a different map as well, an undecided map with Biden showing 259 electoral votes and Trump Pence with 217. Now they're showing Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, and Pennsylvania still being undecided. So that's numbers they have with that. What does all this mean? I don't know. But what I do know is that from The Sun, Joe Doubt. Nearly 80% of Americans accept Joe Biden won presidential election, with just 3% saying Trump was reelected, poll shows. This is dated yesterday. So let's see. The vast majority of Americans, almost 80%, acknowledge Joe Biden is the winner of the presidential election, while a mere 3% believe Donald Trump was reelected. A poll released week after Election Day shows. A whopping 79% of American adults think Biden won the November 3rd election, including more than half of Republicans, according to Reuters' Ipsos National Opinion Survey conducted from Saturday to Tuesday. So then why does the poll, 70% of Republicans don't believe election was free and fair? 70% of Republicans say they don't think the president-elect Joe Biden won a free and fair election, according to New Political Morning Consult poll. The response marks stark increase from 35% of GOP voters who said they felt the election would not be fair before Election Day last Tuesday. 96% of the Democrats surveyed said they had trust in the election process and thought it was free and fair, up to considerably from the 52% of party voters who said they thought it would be before the election. Right. So I guess before they thought that, let's think about the excitement that came into last Tuesday. So the excitement was all on the Trump side. There's never been excitement on the Biden side. There's definitely been anti-Trump excitement. But so going into it, the Republicans felt like, oh, we have this huge red wave is going to come in and we're going to win. So they weren't really thinking about it not being free and fair. They thought they were going to go in. Whereas, since the Democrats have been suspect irrationally since the 2016 win of Donald Trump, they went in thinking, oh, no, something dirty is going to happen. They're going to do something, they're going to pull it. If you looked at some of the other polls beforehand where they said, well, do you think what do your neighbors think? Do they think that Trump is going to win? And a lot of them said, yes, they believe that Trump is going to win. So I guess some of them still hold on. They still cling to the Russia collusion BS. So I guess they thought that the Republicans would be able to pull something else out. I don't know. But this has changed. After the fact, Republicans are thinking, oh my God, this is not free and fair. I did see another poll that came out that was saying that it was about 50%. 50% of Republicans thought that Trump won, but this was before they called it. So why might they think this? The RNC chair says 11,000 people have come forward with voter fraud claims. On Tuesday night, Ronna McDaniel, chair of the Republican National Committee, told Fox News commentator Sean Hannity that she has 234 pages containing 500 sworn affidavits alleging 11,000 incidents of various types of voter fraud. Briefly listing the allegations on Hannity's show, McDaniel said that a person in Wayne County, Michigan, alleged that 60% of a batch of voter ballots had the same signature on them. That another affidavit claimed to have seen 35 ballots counted despite not being cast by registered voters. That 50 ballots were counted multiple times in a tabulation machine elsewhere. That one woman's dead son somehow voted in one election, and that Democrats handed out documents on how to distract Republican vote challengers. I don't know. 11,000 incidents, 500 sworn affidavits. So if you lie on an affidavit, you're swearing. Put up the right hand. You're swearing that everything you're saying is true. So this could be a perception issue. There could be real fraud. I don't know. I don't know. But this is where the Republicans are at right now. So Democrats claim that the 2016 election was stolen from Hillary Clinton because of Russia collusion, which looks, well, as evidence has come out, to have been a hoax. They've been pounding this. They pounded it for years, pounded it. 4 years of Russia collusion. Well, about 2.5 years of Russia collusion. Then it was Ukrainian looking into the Joe Biden incident, which we have proof that actually happened, right? As long as you don't disbelieve what your lying eyes told you from all those emails and the Bobulinski guy, right? So we had all that happening, and now we have it on the other foot, right? It's what goes around comes around. So you wanted to claim our guy cheated. Now we're going to tell you your guy cheated, and it's you people. And there's a lot of people believe this. I don't know. My take is that this all needs to play out in court. I know a lot of these things have been thrown out. You go to Washington Post, you'll see them tell you why. Well, they were feeding it in the machine 50 times because the machine wasn't reading it. It was an error. So there's a lot of explanations like that happening. So the person who gave the sworn testimony may actually have seen something, but there may be rational explanations for some of it. Don't believe all this is actually fraud. Traditionally, there's not that much fraud that they have evidence for. And that's the other thing we're hearing is like this evidence. You must come forth with evidence. Whereas you're seeing that the idea of these affidavits are the beginning to give cause to look into more evidence, to dig deeper into it. All right. Philadelphia City Commissioner denies dead people voted in presidential election. Do I really need to go into this? Did anyone who is actually dead vote? I mean, it's easy. That's an easy denial. Nobody that is dead actually showed up and voted. I hope nobody that's dead actually sent in a mail-in ballot. They may have. But, they're dead. So they didn't do it. Someone might have done it. Someone might have put it in for them, but no, they didn't do it. Dead people didn't show up. CNN politics. Donald Trump doesn't need to concede. It's a custom, not the law. Conceding a lost election is the classy thing to do, and it has usually been part of the country coming together after a divisive campaign. But President Donald Trump has not yet conceded to Joe Biden, who is projected the winner. Not declared, people. The election needs to be declared. It needs to be certified by the different states. They need to send that information to Congress. Congress on December 14th will determine, based on the results, the certified results, who is declared president. And it's just projections from the media so far. So this is the other part. Everybody that thinks just because the media claimed it's over, it's really not. And that's kind of what I showed you in the beginning too. It could still be open. Just because most media outlets have called it for Biden doesn't mean it's true. All right. But President Donald Trump has not yet conceded to Joe Biden, who is projected the winner of the 2020 election on Saturday and has not indicated he has any intention of doing so. Yet, concession is a custom, not something required under the law. There are usually two elements to a concession: a call for the victor and speech to supporters. Hillary Clinton called Trump to concede 2016, and she addressed supporters after it was clear she'd lose, although she advised Biden not to concede if the election was at all close and to let things play out, which is what I'm saying here. Let things play out. It's fair. What you need to do, the people that see this 11,000 claims of voter fraud, that needs to play out in their minds. They need to feel comfortable that, maybe there are explanations for some of it. Maybe there's not. Certainly, I 100% believe there's voter fraud. It's the question of the extent. Will it make any difference? Does it matter? Right? Will that bit of voter fraud matter? Anyone that has a credit card statement knows, can notice if you spend $20 here, $70 there, $80 there, another $40 there. Before you know it, you're like $2,000 into debt. You're like, but what did I buy? Right. So a little bit of voter fraud here, a little bit of voter fraud there may add up to something. I don't really know. And another thing you need to know is in the case where like the case in Michigan where there was the guy that they had, there was the bug, the glitch in the software where the votes went from Joe Biden to Donald Trump. I believe it was 6,000 votes. That's not just 6,000 votes gained for Trump. That's 6,000 votes minus on the Biden side. That's 12,000 votes. That's a $12,000 vote, $12,000 vote change. So it's more significant than it sounds when something like that happens. A lot of these things we're talking about just kind of canceling votes to see if there are votes that could be invalidated. As they say, we want to count all the legal votes and we want to not count all the illegal votes. All right. So John McCain set the modern standard for graciously conceding when he told supporters a little while ago, I had the honor of calling Senator Barack Obama to congratulate him on becoming elected the next president of the country that we both love. Al Gore called George W. Bush to concede on election night in 2000, then called him back to unconcede when results in Florida tightened. He ultimately did concede 36 days later after the Supreme Court ended recounts and gave the White House to Bush. And he gave a conciliatory speech to the nation, even as his supporters fumed at the results. And to this day, people believe that Florida was stolen and that George W. Bush stole the election. So there you go, more election stealing claims. Let's continue. Clyburn, Representative Clyburn, we're teetering on giving president authority to be dictator. House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn of South Carolina said Tuesday that he sees parallels between the conduct of Republicans following President Trump's electoral defeat last week in Germany in the 1930s when the Nazi Party came to power. Are you freaking kidding me? There's there's 11,000 claims of voter fraud. Let it play out. He's not being a Nazi, although, man, look, you might think he is. He might be a sore loser if that's the case. If they don't really add up to anything, but let it play out. In an interview with CNN, the high-ranking House Democrat said that the U.S. was teetering on the edge of fascism, warning that president's attempt to overturn the results of last Tuesday's election raised the possibility that Trump could become a dictator. Oh my goodness. Come on. A dictator. We're back to this. You guys love the dog whistle. The dog whistle. Here's your dog whistle. Antifa, BLM. We're bringing out the fascists. We're bringing out the fascists. We're bringing out the fascist call. Come on. And BLM. I'm sure there's going to be something in here racist, right? That's going to be in there too. Anyway, even if there's not, just the Hitler thing, is kind of implied racist. Alrighty. So people are keeping lists. I'm sure you've heard about this. And if you haven't, there's been a bunch of calls by Democrats to keep lists of our enemies. They're not calling them enemies, but those that co-conspirated with Trump. Yeah, there's actually a list. There's actually databases that were online. The Trump Accountability Project, and now we're gone. That had lists of names of people that were in the administration, people that donated. I think it was $1,000 a plus, people that donated, and judges. Yes, they're keeping lists. Well, sounds a little like a dictator would do. Dictatorial. There you go. This one here is CNN. GOP senators who haven't congratulated Biden. We're keeping a list of you guys who haven't congratulated Biden yet. Don't you know he won? Right. Anyway, what shouldn't you do? New York City man arrested for threatening to kill Senator Schumer. Protesters, prosecutors say. This is from NBC News. Authorities arrested a man in New York after he threatened to kill anyone that claims to be a Democrat and blow up the FBI on social media, prosecutors said. Yeah, you don't do this. You know, this guy's probably mentally ill. Maybe not. I don't think he represents your standard Trump supporter, but do not threaten senators, right? Which, wait. CNN is keeping a list of senators. Right. Don't do it. What else? The Times called officials in every state. No evidence of voter fraud. The president and his allies have baselessly claimed that rampant voter fraud stole victory from him. Officials contacted by the Times said that there were no irregularities that affected the outcome. And then maybe there were irregularities. I guess you can't deny that there's irregularities. But did they affect the outcome? I don't know. Philadelphia. Election officials in dozens of states representing both political parties said that there was no evidence that fraud or other irregularities played a role in the outcome of the presidential race, amounting to a forceful rebuke of President Trump's portrait of a fraudulent election, like those 11,000 counts with 500 affidavits that people think are legitimate fraud, which may or may not be. Anyway, so they talk about Mike DeWine saying yes, in Ohio there wasn't. Of course, nobody's disputing Ohio. Minnesota, nobody's disputing Minnesota. Kansas, nobody's disputing Kansas. That's not where we're disputing. And by we, I mean the Trump team. So I don't know. State Wells officials didn't respond. Whatever. They're saying there's not. That doesn't mean that there isn't. It could be that they just don't know about it. I don't know. But maybe there isn't. Maybe there is. Maybe there isn't. Maybe there is. I don't know. All right. Byron York's Daily Memo. There's, of course, another opinion piece. The election lawsuit Trump should win. And by the way, I completely agree with this. The election lawsuit Trump should win. In its effort to challenge vote counts in key states, the Trump campaign has filed lots of lawsuits that have little chance of winning. But there is one suit that it should win, not only for the Trump campaign or the 2020 election, but for all elections in the future. It is the court fight over Pennsylvania's election rules, and it involves a fundamental issue that is important to all 50 states. First thing to remember is that the Constitution gives state legislatures the authority to make rules governing the conduct of elections for federal offices in their state. In October 29, the Pennsylvania state legislature passed Act 77, which updated and revised the rules for elections in the state. For the first time ever, it allowed all Pennsylvanians to vote by mail if they choose, without requiring that they show they would be absent from their voting district on election day. Remember, this was pre-coronavirus, and Pennsylvania was moving toward greater voting by mail than in the past. On the question of voting by mail, the legislature made one clear, unambiguous requirement. All mail-in ballots had to be received by 8 p.m. on election day. It let stand an existing law that allowed military and overseas ballots to be received for 7 days after the election. Then, in March of this year, after the arrival of the virus, the legislature revisited that law. It made some changes to accommodate voting in a pandemic. It rescheduled the state's primary election and included measures to help reduce crowding at polling places. But it left untouched the requirement that all mail-in ballots had to be received by 8 p.m. on election night. That's where things stood as the presidential election approached. Then a number of Democrat groups filed a lawsuit against the Secretary of State. The group said the pandemic required that the deadline for receipt of absentee ballots be extended. The case went to the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court, which has a 5-2 Democratic majority. On September 17th, the court threw out the legislature's deadline for ballots and created a new one, 5 p.m. on November 6th, 3 days after the election. The justices just made it up. They did not claim that the existing law was unclear. We are not asking to interpret the statutory language establishing received by deadline for mail-in ballots, the majority justices wrote. Indeed, there is no ambiguity regarding the deadline set by the General Assembly, nor did they claim that existing law was unconstitutional. We are not asked to declare the language facially or unconstitutional, as there is nothing constitutionally to inform about the deadline of 8 p.m. on Election Day for the receipt of ballots, the justices added. Instead, the justices claimed that an extraordinary situation existed. They repeated a lot of the fretting Democrats engaged in earlier this year about the post office, and then they declared coronavirus a natural disaster, which there is a little bit of argument that it's a natural disaster, certainly. Threw out the law and wrote a new one. You cannot write laws. You interpret laws. Anyway, Republicans immediately protested. The Constitution gives the legislature the power to make election law. They argued in March the legislature, fully aware of the coronavirus situation, passed a law governing the 2020 election. The court cannot just make up a new law. The matter went to the U.S. Supreme Court, which split 4-4 on whether it should intervene. New Justice Amy Coney Barrett was not up on the case. That meant the court took no action. Pennsylvania would keep accepting ballots for 3 days after Election Day. Justice Samuel Alito protested vigorously. The court's handling of the important constitutional issue raised by this matter has needlessly created conditions that could lead to serious post-election problems, he wrote. But Alito's words went unheeded, and the election went on with the state Supreme Court's new ballot deadline. The results in Pennsylvania, of course, are very close. It took days to call the race for Joe Biden, and the court created a deadline as part of a confusing and difficult situation, along with Justices Thomas and Gorsuch. Alito concluded that the Pennsylvania case has national importance, and there is a strong likelihood that the state Supreme Court decision violates the federal Constitution. So now, with the election over, the issue is headed back to the Supreme Court. And putting aside the specifics of Pennsylvania's situation, the matter concerns a hugely important principle, which is the constitutional authority of state legislatures to make election law for their states. Other states with no stake in Pennsylvania results can see that. On Monday, 10 states, Missouri, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, South Dakota, and Texas filed an amicus brief upholding the importance of the constitutional rights of state legislatures. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court decision overstepped its constitutional responsibility, encroached on the authority of the Pennsylvania legislature, and violated the plain language of the Constitution's election clauses. The states, which are governed by Republicans, wrote. Who will win? Who knows? But it appears Republicans have a strong case that the Pennsylvania court exceeded its authority. In an email exchange, I asked John Yoo, the Berkeley professor and former George W. Bush Justice Department official, what might happen. Here's what he said. President Trump's campaign can challenge the vote on the ground that Pennsylvania Supreme Court unconstitutionally interfered with the state legislatures stole authority over the time, place, and manner of federal elections and over the selection of presidential electors. The federal Constitution directly grants these powers to the legislature of Pennsylvania. State courts have no authority in alter state election law for federal office, including the presidency. The Supreme Court could strike down the extension of the Pennsylvania deadline to November 6th and order the state to reject any ballots that have arrived after Election Day. This is not some constitutional flight of fancy. Justice Samuel Alito had already made clear his view that Pennsylvania Supreme Court had violated the Constitution. He wrote, "The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania has issued a decree that squarely alters an important statutory provision enacted by Pennsylvania's legislature pursuant to the authority under the Constitution of the United States to make rules governing the conduct of elections for federal office. In the end, the case might have no effect on the presidential election results in Pennsylvania, but that is not the issue at hand. The issue is who writes the election laws in the states, the legislature or someone else. The Constitution is clear on the matter, and the U.S. Supreme Court needs to decide." So, Pennsylvania may be decided because of a procedural problem. And the fact that, and by the way, I have no idea how many votes were cast after, how many votes arrived after 8 p.m. on Election Day in Pennsylvania. I don't know. I haven't seen that. Maybe it's out there. I haven't seen it. But were this lawsuit to succeed, those votes are very likely to be invalidated, just thrown out. And it's a weird thing because it will have been the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania, assuming that those ballots that came in afterwards were legitimate, they will have nullified them. They will have disenfranchised all those people because they broke the law and they made an unconstitutional ruling. So, like Byron York says, let's find out. Let's see what happens. But it's an interesting one, and it has implications for years to come. It shouldn't be that the Supreme Court inside of Pennsylvania gets to decide. They don't make law. The courts are supposed to interpret law. I'm not going to get into this one, but essentially, if you've been following, you know I harp on Georgia. The Georgia runoffs are coming. It's important. It's important for both parties. We're going to assume that Joe Biden wins. And Joe Biden wins this election. They will then control, meaning the Democrats, they will control the White House, and they will control the House of Representatives, which just leaves the Senate and the judiciary. So the Senate, if that goes Democrat, that gives them a lot of power. So there's a lot going on there. You could see an effort. Mr. Truth and Reconciliation Commission, Robert Reich, the Georgia runoffs will determine whether we take control of the Senate from Mitch McConnell. That's right. You've seen a lot of Andrew Yang. He's gathering up a lot of celebrities because celebrities are important to elections. They should be involved. You know, it's something I hate, by the way. I just want to say it. A lot of you actors who get politically involved, I can't see you any other way anymore. One way or the other. Whether you're, we want to say there's a huge list of people. There's my list. There's a huge list of people who are left leaning openly in Hollywood. There's a handful who are right leaning. Famously Clint Eastwood, right? Stop, please, just stop. I can't see you any other way, and it kind of ruins it for me personally. Robert De Niro, I see you in a movie now, and I just see The Activist, and I'm sorry. I mean, I know you got all your money now, probably. Oh, I think, wasn't there a story about you mismanaging your money? I mean, stop. Just be entertainers, please. And this is the other problem, right? This is the culture war stuff. Please, get it out of sports. You don't belong there. Colin Kaepernick, thank you for bringing all this garbage into sports. I don't watch sports anymore. And to a large extent, this is why. Plus I have other things going on, but I don't like the politics. Get it out. Get it out of here. And Trump is to blame for this too. Don't get me wrong. The whole Colin Kaepernick thing. And that was like, well, Trump's going to say stuff against them. And then, well, now we're going to show Trump. So now we're all going to kneel. And then, anyway, Georgia, very important. Very, very important. I read today that Trump is looking to go when the time is right, when he believes is right. This is where you should go. You need to support the party. Let these lawsuits play out. You want to continue to do it. Let's not destroy the country in the process. Things are getting ugly. I'm not going to lie to you. But let it play out. And let's not forget that it looks unlikely for Donald Trump to become president again. It looks very unlikely in spite of all this. Even if he gets Pennsylvania here, he would have to turn Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona may turn, and Nevada. You got to do a lot more. You got a lot more than Pennsylvania. Yeah, it would move you up here. It would get you to 253 or 252. But yeah, you got to do more. Georgia. All right. If you like this video, please give us a like. Leave me a comment below and hit the subscribe button, folks, if you like our content. Thank you very much.